Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unleash Greatness.
Welcome.
This is the launch, the beginning of a new era, my friends. I want you to think back to like 1770s.
1776.
Sitting in Independence Hall, thinking about like founding a new country. This is as monumental and maybe just as important as what they were doing in Independence Hall. It's good to have you here. For those of you guys that don't know us, we are Mark Nathan and David Anderson. We are co-authors of The Delusion of Passion, Why Millennials Struggle to Find Success, which has been a fantastic book and has opened up a lot of amazing doors. And we've gotten a chance to talk with a ton of different companies about millennials and their young leaders rising up through their company. And in response to that, we have created and launched Unleash Greatness. We're going to tell you a lot more about it. We're just starting it. This is lesson number one, episode number one, if you will. But let's give you a little bit of background on us, give you a little bit of an idea of how this webinar is going to typically roll, and then we're going to launch into it. David.
Yes.
How are you, my friend?
I'm doing awesome.
Yeah?
Bloom, as you can see.
Fantastic. Yeah, you're looking good. Not too shiny. You're not too shiny. I need a little bit more light on this side. I'm going to have to get like a lamp or something. We'll work on that. But let me tell you real quick about David Anderson. David's a good dude. We've been buddies for a long time. We met when he was 19 and I was 22. And it's been really cool growing up in the beginning part of our career together. We went down very different paths, but we stayed in touch and have collaborated on a lot of things more recently. But David actually has a phenomenal story. Just a quick brief recap. Grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, as it were. Pulled himself out of not a fantastic neighborhood, was involved with gangs pretty early on, was dealing with a lot of family mental health stuff with his mom and trying to figure out how to balance all of those things while he was putting himself through college. Graduated out of Chicago State University in the finance world, worked at Goldman Sachs on Wall Street, and then he was an intern at the White House, and then he was an aide at the White House, and then he moved on to start his own traditional business in student loan servicing, built that, sold his chunk of that, and then more recently has been working with a couple of multinational firms, international companies in the executive level with some cool stuff. They're actually on the beginning of a very cool new opportunity that's just finalizing right now. So he's a really good dude. We've known each other for a long time. His wife is Korean, and so they got like Malaysian babies together. And my wife is very fair-skinned and redheaded, so like we got a little. It's just very when our families get together, it's very international. It's pretty awesome.
Yes, and so I want to talk about Mark real quick, guys. So if you don't know Mark, you should, because Mark is I'll use that SAT word, ambidextrous. He's quite
not actually with my left hand. When I do anything with my left hand, I look like I'm partially not functional.
He's multifaceted. But effectively, Mark went to school in Chicago here at Loyola Chicago. But what's interesting about that is that while he was in college, yes, he started one of the first kind of collegiate film festivals within the area in Chicago, built a successful business. As you know anything about film, it's hard to get artists to all work together sometimes. But did that, and then actually went off into corporate recruiting. Became one of the top recruiters at his firm. But not only top recruiters, but recruiting people from all over the nation in different professions. But with that, he actually started a kind of an online marketing business on the side of his day job, what he was doing, and actually built that actually into $1 million revenue business, and left the corporate world at about 27 years old, which I couldn't believe. I was like, you didn't leave anything. No, he actually really had built this really sizable business. But from that, Mark actually has done a myriad of speaking around the world, speaking in Australia, speaking in Dominican Republic, speaking all around the world. He's spoken to tens of thousands of people. He's worked with thousands of millennials, literally. And not only that, but obviously through the book and our partnership, sold thousands and thousands of books. So effectively, Mark is a stand-up guy, but he's a number one stunner, I would say. He's a number one guy.
One stunner. Awesome. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds awesome and epic. So here's how Unleash Greatness is going to roll on a typical basis. We're going to follow a really simple structure, but I think it's going to be awesome because this is designed for millennial employees and the managers and hiring managers and executives of different companies to learn how to work together with their young leaders. And so this is a webinar that I think is going to accomplish both. See, we've got both of these things going on inside of our head. David and I are both built stuff, and so we understand it from that perspective, growing and scaling and running organizations. But we're on the front end of the millennial generation, so there's a lot of things going on in our head that want to stick it to the man and don't necessarily line up with. We've got a different set of expectations that are a lot of times in conflict with the traditional, kind of the traditional job and corporate structure. And so really understanding how to blend those two things together has been something that we've really enjoyed doing. It's something that we've talked to tons of companies about and tons of millennials about. And so I think this is going to be really cool. But every week, here's how it's going to roll. Section 1. We're going to highlight something that's awesome that's happening out in the world, either on the interwebs or in books or podcasts or something awesome, deemed awesome by our team here at Millennial Strong that we want to share and we want to make sure that you guys are aware of so that you can continue to grow and develop yourself. We'll share a little bit and promote it and whatnot, and then we'll let you go check it out a little bit more later. Section 2, we're going to go behind the scenes of various different industries. And David and I are kicking this thing off, and we're going to be staples of these learning lessons and Unleash Greatness. But we're going to have a lot of really cool people coming through here because we're going to tap into our friends and our network of people that we know that are doing some really cool stuff. And we're going to go behind the scenes of different industries so that you can learn kind of cross-functionally about different industries, go behind the scenes of how things are run, just so you can learn how it happens. And learning new stuff is cool. So we're on the docket. We've got some really cool things. David's actually going to go behind the scenes of the White House and share some of the experience there. We're going to go behind the scenes of Facebook ads and how all that works and how Facebook is really in like every part of your world and in your life. We're going to go behind the scenes of the national tour of Disney's Aladdin. One of my friends is Jafar and Aladdin of the national tour. So we're going to go behind the scenes there. We're going to go behind the scenes of the diamond industry. We're going to go on behind the scenes of launching a new apparel brand. And so lots of cool stuff that's on the docket. And we're really excited about sharing with you over these weekly webinars. And the last section is actually going to be kind of our favorite part.
Yeah, I think Aladdin, I just love, it's a whole new world. It's a whole new world, Mark.
Stop it. Unacceptable.
Everyone's saying that song. It's a new world. Anyway.
That's not bad. Look at you, boy.
I got a little bit of skill. A little bit of
something.
Here we go. So look, the second part, after behind the scenes, we're going to go into learning lessons. And what a learning lesson is about is not your typical classroom school setting where we just kind of, want to just talk to you. But effectively, we're going to go into development. Right now, not only personal development, but personal improvement and how you can get better as a millennial. And not only as a millennial, but right where you are. One of the challenges that people face is that, you may be too far ahead or you may be looking behind you, but really being great where you are right now. That's what we call this unleashing greatness. That's why we call it that, because it's about making you great right where you are today, right? How do you manage up? How do you manage down? How do you manage sideways? How do you design your job in a way or design your life in a way that you can experience happiness? And also, how do you as an individual reach your full potential in what you're doing? And you can do that right where you are. A lot of people are looking at everything else around them. It's like right where you are, you can be great. Yeah. That's what we're going to go through.
So it's going to be really cool. That's the general structure. It's going to follow every week. And welcome to the dawn of Unleash Greatness.
The dawn.
Dun, dun, dun. Section 1. We're going to talk about awesome stuff that's happening out there. I just saw a pretty phenomenal video from one of my favorite actors, Denzel Washington, and he is one of those guys, man. I just love anything he does. I'm all about it. My favorite now, he's just like doing all these like revenge movies where he just gets angry and then destroys everyone. But he's a phenomenal actor. He's one of my favorites, and he's not one of those actors where like, you know, some people like him, some people don't. You know, some comedians, some specific appeal, some not. Everyone loves Denzel Washington. And I enjoy it. Like, I have a lot of mixed emotions about Brad Pitt, mainly because as an actor, like when someone's that good looking, you just want them to be a actor.
You give him a pass, you know.
You're just like, well, he's pretty, you know, like he's a good looking guy. Yeah, he doesn't act very well. But then when he's a phenomenal actor and he looks like that, that's the worst. Anyway, so Brad Pitt, that is a separate topic. But Denzel Washington, I saw this great video on YouTube. We're gonna play like a minute of it for you, and then we'll post it on our Facebook page for Delusion of Passion. But this is a really cool. He's sharing at a commencement ceremony and talking a little bit about how, I mean, he was flunking out of college and some things that really kind of changed his life and changed his focus, and really learning how to fail big and really go after things at a bigger level. I'm going to share this with you, and
I was flunking out of college. I had a 1.7 grade point average. I hope none of you can relate. I had a 1.7 grade point average. I was sitting in my mother's beauty shop. They still call it beauty shops now? What they call it now? Yeah, I'll sit in the beauty parlor. I was sitting in my mother's beauty parlor, and I'm looking in the mirror, and I see behind me this woman under the dryer. And every time I looked up, she was looking at me, just looking me in the eye. And I didn't know who she was, and I said, you know, she said, somebody give me a pen, give me a pencil, I have a prophecy. March 27, 1975, she said, boy, you are gonna travel the world and speak to millions of people. Now, mind you, I flunked out of college. I'm thinking about joining the army. I didn't know what I was gonna do, and she's telling me I'm gonna travel the world and speak to millions of people. Well, I have traveled the world, and I have spoke to millions of people. But that's not the most important thing, the success that I had. The most important thing is that what she taught me and what she told me that day has stayed with me since. I've been protected, I've been directed, I've been corrected. Fail big.
Well, he gets into all sorts of really cool stuff, things that he learned as he's been speaking to millions of people and traveled all over the world, learning from people that have done it and have obviously succeeded at a very high level. It's really cool to hear. So definitely check out that video, and we're going to go behind the scenes. David, you ready? We're going to go behind the scenes of the White House. And this is really cool. David, he was over there during the Obama administration a handful of years ago, and he got a chance to work in the front office and really, you know, be a part of lots of different things. Now, when you share these things, David, I just want to make sure that you're not going to share national secrets. There's enough craziness happening.
No, I'm not going to compromise national security.
Thank you. That's great. Thanks for doing that. Awesome. So David's going to go behind the scenes. I'm going to share a couple. We'll share a couple slides with you, and we're going to rock and roll. Take it away, David.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Mark. So let's get into the White House, friends. The White House. So again, I'm not going to compromise national security, but I do think there are a ton of things that you can learn and that we can learn from the White House. So here we go. Ready? The White House. Now, you normally know it as what you look at right there. So there's the White House sitting there. It's the pinnacle of power, influence within the United States. It is the what some is deemed as the probably most powerful place in the entire world. America still is a one of the mega superpowers in the world, so it's definitely deemed the most powerful place in the world today. So how is it comprised? And so I want to get behind real quick. What you know, or what from the outside you know, is this: there's an Oval Office. Okay, the Oval Office sits in the West Wing, right? If you ever watched that show called The West Wing, they A lot of scenes happen here. A lot of movie things happen in the Oval Office. So most Americans, most people around the world are familiar with the Oval Office. There is also, right, the East Wing. Okay, the East Wing is where the First Lady usually sits. And also not just the First Lady, but this is where a lot of the events take place. This is where you see White House concerts take place. If you, as a citizen of the United States, if you want a tour of the White House, it's more than likely going to be an East Wing tour. There are West Wing tours, just so you know, okay? There are West Wing tours, but a staffer from the White House has to take you on the West Wing tour. But most tours are actually in the East Wing. The East Wing is also where a lot of the events take place. Now, there is the next building I want to go through is the Executive Office Building. This is called the Eisenhower Building. It's that gray building right on the side of the West Wing, right? You see the picture of the White House, and there's that gray building behind it. That is actually where most of the White House action happens, believe it or not. Most of the White House action does not happen inside the White House, believe it or not. Most action happens inside of that building. 90%, 95% of people you hear that tell you, hey, I got invited to come to the White House. Most of them are going to that gray building. Very few people go to the Oval Office to meet the president. Very few people actually are going to the East Wing. Most people are actually going. If they have a meeting with the White House or with the president or with a staffer or whoever it may be, most of them are going to the Executive Office Building. All right. Now, next is the new Executive Office Building. Right. You never knew this, right? I mean, there's like quite a few buildings. Quite a few buildings that are all deemed as the White House. Okay, so the new Executive Office Building is where they take a lot of the what I call career staff and folks that are in the support roles of the White House. So technology's in there. You got the call centers there. Folks in like management and budget are there. It's still considered the White House, but it's actually in this building. All right. So quick recap, right? Just so you know. You have the East Wing. East Wing, you got the First Lady. It's about 10% of the staff is there. Public tours, state dinners, concerts, all happen in the East Wing. In the West Wing, you have the President's office. About another 10% of staff, the Oval Office. There's actually a theater there. And also, you have the Situation Room. You know, that place where you see all of the cool stuff happening with, you know, the general and the president and those cool movies. That's in the Situation Room. One cool fact, there's actually this little like thing in the Oval Office that actually shoots into the Situation Room. It's like James Bond. It's freaking awesome. Okay, anyway. And then Eisenhower Building. This is where a lot of the top aides are. This is where, you know, you would see the senior advisors. Like many of the top aides are actually in the Executive Office Building. 60% of staff are there. About 95% of visitors go there. The bowling alley is in the Executive Office Building, and also the cafeteria. There is a cafeteria, like a little small like cafe inside the West Wing. But if you want a lot of the other food options, you got to go over to the Executive Office Building in Eisenhower to get that. And then lastly, the new Executive Office Building, where it's about 20% of staff, call center, management and budget, technology, and also the White House gym is in the new Executive Office Building. So that's the breakdown. That's what you kind of need to know, or you could have known, but that's how the White House is structured. So it's not just that white building, although that's what you see in the press. Now, getting behind the scenes. This is an article that came out that I wanted to talk about. It said, White House summer interns, it never hurts to have connections. All right. Now, I want to ask the group, right, what percentage of White House staff are interns? What percentage of White House staff are interns? Okay. 5%, 10%, 15, 20%, 25% plus. What percentage of White House staff are White House interns? What do you think? Right? Some people think 10, 20, 25%, 5%. Okay. So actually, just so you know, right, the percentage of White House interns in the White House is actually about 30%. 30%.
Right. I mean, this is just an amazing thing. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know that coming here myself. But what happened a few presidents back, I think it actually happened on the Eisenhower when they started it. But effectively, they started this thing to bring young people into the White House at the time to get government and public service experience. And effectively, what happened, people, was that they like kept doing it, and so no one wants to raise the budget of the White House, okay, to just hire more people. So they kept bringing in more interns and more interns and more interns. And even in this article, you see at this time there were 147 interns were coming in that summer, and what they were highlighting was that all the connections you had to have to get into the White House as an intern. Now, interns can be everything from ages 18, 19, all the way to 45. And so I'll go through a little bit of that later, but it's pretty broad in how it all works. So that is an interesting fact. 30% of the people that are staffers at the White House are interns, people.
The most powerful office in the world, basically. 33% are
yes. That's crazy. All right, next. Look at this building, right? What do you think it is? What type of building do you think it is? Is it a condo? Is it a hotel? Like, what do you think this building is? So in DC, you see buildings like this, and you think, oh my God, that's a hotel, or that's an apartment, or that's whatever building it is. And effectively, you find out once you go inside the building, right? Dun, 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 things are not what they seem. Now, obviously, this is in the best interest of our security as a nation. But I walked in. I remember obviously that day going with my boss, and you go in there and you think you're going into a hotel or a condo, and it's literally national NSA and Secret Service and other folks. But you start to realize how as a powerful nation like America, how much you have to protect yourself and protect your interests, so no one knows what's going on. And so things are not what they seem all the time. So this is one of those things I want to share with you, kind of behind the scenes, right? So when you're in DC and you're looking up at a building, you don't really know what's actually going on in that building, because they're not always telling you, which is a good thing for security. Last two things, again, there is a petition, a We the People petition, that you can circulate as an individual, right? Where this gracious nation empowers its citizens to have a voice. And if you get 100,000 signatures, you actually will get a response from the White House on that issue. Right now, you see those. There's one about Chinese Lives Matter. There's one about repealing the North American Trade Agreement. Also, one about Donald Trump, release your tax returns. But whatever the matter is, you can put something out there and actually get a response from the most powerful place in the world. And it's so phenomenal. I mean, our country is very special in that it allows the citizens to have a voice. The next thing and last thing I want to kind of go through is from a White House internship perspective, what you can actually do. So this is the website. Here it is. Obviously, it's a competitive program like that other slide showed you with the Washington Post. It doesn't hurt to have connections, but you, as an American citizen, can apply to the White House to become an intern. No promises. Obviously, I've spoken to hundreds of people about this. Actually, 2 people have really followed my direction, and both of them actually got internships at the White House. So I'm very proud of them. But effectively, you got to demonstrate leadership in the community, a commitment to public service, and a commitment to the current administration in which you are going to work for. I just want to end with this. This is a special country, people. We live in a special country in that citizens have a voice. Citizens can actually do things that in a lot of places you can't do. And so take advantage of this country. Take advantage of this democracy, of this republic. Take advantage of what we have in America. And now this was behind the scenes of the White House.
Boom.
Boom. Mic drop.
That's how you do behind the scenes, my friend.
Yes.
A little bit of inside info on how it actually works. A little bit of inside info on how to get in there and how it relates to you and your world. Yes. And thank you for not jeopardizing our national security.
No problem.
I appreciate that. That's very excellent and very cool and very smart of you to not do that, my friend. So Full screen. We're going full screen because this right here, my friends, is the heart of Unleash Greatness. These learning lessons, I think, are some of the most powerful and life-changing things that David and I have come across. And as we continue to have more and more of these episodes, we're going to have folks sharing tips of what they did as they were growing their career and learning to grow as leaders and young leaders and grow in their paths. We're going to have them share some of the most important lessons that they learned. But today I want to start out by sharing a story of actually a young guy that I worked with when I was first starting in the recruiting world. So I worked as a recruiter for a handful of years, and I was at the smaller company when it was just getting launched. They brought on this young guy just coming out of school. He was one of the first employees there as well, and had a ton of potential, man. Just crushed it, and went to work. When he was there and he was focused, he was out of control, great with people, and a hard worker. One of the owners really took a liking to him and really took him under his wing, showed him the ropes, helped him understand the industry. Because most people in the industry have no idea about the recruiting world, because the joke inside of the recruiting world is that it's kind of like the island of misfit toys. Like, no one actually knows how they got there. They're just there. They're a recruiter. They're in the recruiting world. So really showed him the ropes, really helped him understand the different companies and industries and roles, and very quickly became a pretty solid producer, and actually became the top producer. For there was a sales competition over a 60-day span of time, and the owners were in on it as well. The first employees were in on it as well. And this kid won. He won. He was the top producer for a 60-day stretch of time. Unfortunately, there were always some things as he was doing well. There was just constantly this thing that kept coming up. For him, it was being on time and being late. He was constantly 5 to 15 minutes behind, like always. Just never on time for anything. It's almost like you started to kind of make up like, what excuse is he going to make up this time? And what's he going to say this time? Because you just assumed he wasn't going to be there. And he got to the point where he was super unaccountable. And of course, then it bleeds into not being able to really properly schedule and effectively schedule things with either coworkers or with clients, because you just weren't even really sure. And it didn't matter if it was clients or this. There was always something. There was always an excuse. There was always, this traffic thing, or there was always this issue, or my alarm, or whatever it was. There was always something with this guy. And what started to happen was that it was catching up to him. And he was told by the owners, if you show up late one more time, we're just going to have to let you go. And it wasn't but a couple of days later that he showed up late one more time, and they let him go. And it really hurt him. And I know, because that guy was me. It sucked. It really sucked being let go for being late, which it was just ridiculous. And actually, when I first got let go, I was pretty fuming. I was pretty mad. How dare you? I'm one of the top producers here. Are you serious? I just won that sales competition. Literally, it was a handful of days after the sales competition ended, and I won. And the top prize was a TV. It was a flat screen TV, and I promised it to my mom. And then I showed up late the day I was supposed to take it home, and of course they didn't let me take it home. So I lied to my mom, basically, which stung. But I remember being pretty angry and pretty indignant. I'm one of the top producers here. What are you talking about? Like, does it really matter if I'm 5 minutes late? If I've taken long lunches, if I'm leaving a little bit early, is it really that big of a deal? I'm producing like a champ. Are you serious right now? And for them, it was really serious, because they're growing a company, and just as many reasons that I had why it wasn't a big deal, they had actually a lot of reasons why it was a big deal. I mean, as they were bringing on new people. Well, guess what? Those people are looking to the folks that are already there as an example. And so if one of the top producers is showing up whenever they want and taking long lunches and leaving early, well, guess what they're going to do? And so all of these things, and of course, just being dependable and accountable for client meetings and all this kind of stuff was just unbelievably important. But it was coming across as rude. I didn't think it was. But here was the problem. Because it was always someone else's fault, I always had an excuse. There was always some reason. Here's what I was doing. I didn't even realize it. I was forfeiting and I was giving away my power to make it better, because the power to change comes in the power of personal responsibility. See, if it's everyone else's fault that I'm late, then I can't fix it. If it's everyone else's fault that I'm running behind, well, then I can't make it better. If I look at other areas in my life, and I'm guessing there's probably areas, I don't know what they are, but I'm guessing you do, because this late thing wasn't just this job situation. This is something that I've heard a lot. I had heard it at this job. I heard it at my last job. I heard it in college. I heard it with my friends. I heard it with my family. But I always had an excuse. It wasn't me. I'm trying my best. I'm doing the best I can. What are you talking about? And every time I made an excuse, it was like I was neutering myself a little bit more. Like I was giving away the power to make it better every time I was making an excuse. And for some people, it's being late or whatever it is. For some folks, it's finances, whatever it is. You're broke all the time. You make bad financial moves. No, but you don't understand. It's this thing or that thing, or my job this, or my car this, or the economy this, or whatever. And there's always excuses. There's always excuses. But when it's someone else's fault that your finances are garbage, well, then you have to wait for something else to change. You have to wait for the government to get better. Good luck, with all of the things that you're going to wait for the government to fix your finances. You got to be nuts. You're going to wait for your spending your spending habits, or your promotion or whatever it is. That's going to fix it. It's not going to fix it. You got to fix it. Everywhere you go, there you are. Maybe sometimes people have called you lazy, a little disinterested, a little disconnected. Well, they just don't understand. They don't get me. Everyone doesn't get you. At this job, they don't get you. At your last job, they don't get you. In school, they didn't get you. Your professors didn't get you. Your parents don't get you. Everyone doesn't get you except you. Or maybe there's something that you need to change. See, when you own it and you take personal responsibility, it actually opens up everything. Now you can direct your life and change your life and create and design the life you want and the person you want to be. But it all starts with taking personal responsibility to change. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips, okay? As you move forward, I want you to pick one thing. The one thing that keeps popping up, no matter where you are, what you're doing, it seems like it keeps following you everywhere. I need you to pick that one thing. And here's what I want you to do for the next month, okay? Here's what I want you to do. Stop making excuses. Just stop. Just stop immediately. Stop making excuses. Because the more you make excuses, the less likely you're going to be able to ever fix it. So stop making excuses. And then, you ready? Not just stop making excuses, but own it. See, when I got fired from that company and then I needed to go apply to other organizations for a job, and they asked, well, what was your reason for leaving? You looked like you had good numbers there. Why did you leave? You know what? It really kind of sucked having to look at me in the eye and say, I got fired because I was late. I was late all the time. And it really was stupid because it was a really good situation over there. It was a great company, and I feel like a moron. But what I realized was, if I can always be 10 to 15 minutes late, well, I can always be 10 to 15 minutes early too. And I'm going to work on it. I'm working on it. It's something I'm actively working on, and it's, an unfortunate learning lesson, but I'm looking forward to changing it. See, there's not just a power in personal responsibility, but there's also a respect in personal responsibility. There's the respect that you gain from other people when you're not making excuses and you know that you're working on it and getting better. But even more powerful than that is the self-respect that you start to gain when you realize that you are actually moving forward. You're actually becoming better. You're actually growing. You're actually changing. All of these things come from personal responsibility. Personal responsibility to be on time and accountable, personal responsibility to be disciplined in your finances, personal responsibility to take more initiative in everywhere that you are. So stop making excuses, take personal responsibility and own it, and actively do something to make it better. Take on an extra project work, figure out a way to like add more value than is required or necessary. Look for ways to add value. Look for ways to be smarter with your money. Look for ways to show up on time and change your schedule, because man, the power and the respect that you start to develop inside of yourself you can't, it's the most freeing thing you're ever going to feel. It's the most freeing thing you're ever going to experience. And I can't wait as you continue to grow yourself to unleash your greatness by taking on the power of personal responsibility.
Mark, great job. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Obviously, this learning lesson about accountability, reaching your full potential, and also, just being on time, the simple stuff. But thank you for those challenges. Look, guys, this is what Unleash Greatness is about, right? It's about you reaching your full potential and unlocking the greatness inside of you. This is just the beginning. We're going to do, obviously, so many episodes about so many awesome and great things, and this is just the beginning. Again, you can go to millennialstrong.com to get more information. Again, www.millennialstrong.com to get more information about what we do. Also, obviously, our book, The Delusion of Passion, Why Millennials Struggle to Find Success. Look, this has been Unleash Greatness, guys, and as we always say, we will see you at the top.
Bye, guys.